Warren Buffett, a name that you probably already heard before. This man is one of the most influential and wealthy men in the world, but how does he succeed to create such an honorable reputation with that much wealth? Today, we're gonna see together how can you apply the Buffett method to your life. Hey guys, for everyone that is new, my name is Louis Olivier, and today we will see together the 5 best advices given by Warren Buffett on how to create wealth. First, for those who wouldn't know who is Warren Buffett, or should I say the Oracle of Omaha, he is a 90 years old American billionaire. He is notably famous for being one of the most wealthy men in the world, but also for being the chairman of the company Berkshire Hathaway. He also wrote the adaptation of the famous book The Intelligent Investor that I highly recommend you to read if you are interested by personal finance. And the original author of this book is Buffett mentor and also the father of value investing, that is considered as many as the most talented investor of all time, Sir Benjamin Graham. So now that you know more about Warren Buffett, let's take a look at his top 5 best advices on wealth creation. When you are starting to make money and to make profits, the first thing that you might be tempted to do is to go spend it. However, according to Mr. Buffett, this is the wrong thing to do. So what you should do with the profit that you did would be to go take it and to go reinvest it to do even more profit. So this phenomenon is called compound interest. And a good example to show that example is to seeing it as a snowball. So investing is the same as a snowball. Like for example, if you invest young, what you will do basically is you're going to do some interest on the first amount of money that you put in investment, and the older you're going to get, the bigger your first amount is going to be. And it's the same as a snowball. So for example, if you have a snowball and you let it grow, at first it's going to be small, but with time and when it's going to go down, it's going to get bigger and bigger. And an example from Mr. Buffett, obviously when he was a teen, he decided with his friend to create a pinball machine that he used to pawn in barbershop. And with that machine, with the profit that he did, he reinvested to buy 7 other machines, and with those other machines basically he decided to after sell it in different other shops, and with the profits that he did from those machines, basically he sold the ventures and he took the profit to reinvest it in some stocks and also create another new company. And at age 26, Mr. Buffett had at that time $174,000, which is equal to almost $1.5 million in today's money. This advice is pretty easy, but at the same time pretty hard to understand. So being careful and do attention to your small expenses doesn't mean that you are being cheap. Being cheap basically means that you don't want to pay for things and for essential things, for example, and you will try to use people to pay for you, and that you don't want to spend any money. And for example, a great example that could represent it is basically when you do attentions to all your small expenses, what you could do is, for example, for someone who is used to drink let's say 5 cans of Coke per day, well, what he could do, he could try to reduce this amount to, let's say, one can of Coke per day, which will not only improve his personal health but also the health of his wallet. Mr. Buffett. But for real, like when we take a look at the investing mentality of Mr. Buffett, he always invests in some stocks and in some companies that are managed by manager that will be really careful on all the tiniest cost, and that's really important for him because not only it will improve the general profits, but also it will improve his paychecks. Nothing important will come easy in your life. You will always need to work hard to get what you want, and sometimes the most beautiful things will come to you when you are able to pass all the difficulties that you will face. Now, I'm not trying to do any motivation speech or any motivation text. What I'm trying to say is that for Mr. Buffett, perseverance is really important, and as he say, tenacity and curiosity can help people to beat, for example, all the big and the established companies. And for him, that's why he decided to invest in Nebraska Furniture Mart in 1983 because he liked the way its owner Rose Blumkin was doing her business. And for those who don't know Rose Blumkin, basically she is a Russian immigrant that came to the USA to do business, and at the beginning she had some pawn shop that was very small, and she was competing against the big companies, and now she became one of the largest company in her field in North America, and that's because she's truly a miraculous negotiator. And that's what Mr. Buffett likes about her. She was able to fight against all the big companies and all the big established companies, and she was able to do her mark and really become truly a big figure in her field. And she was really perseverant, and that's why it's really important for him. And for Mr. Buffett, Rose embodied really the perfect underdog, we could say, that has the courage to fight the big competitors and the big companies and to win because of her courage and her tenacity. So this advice is like a 2-in-1. Basically, Mr. Buffett say know when to quit, but also learn from your mistakes. And what he means by know when to quit is to know when to quit when you are in a losing pattern and when you know that the situation won't go better. So that means that, for example, if you're going to the abyss, you need to stop going to it or you're gonna sink. So that's really important to understand that, for example, you should not let your anxiety rule over your mind and when you're doing investing, but it's in everything. So don't let your anxiety fool you to over push or overdo something. And a good example that from him that is that when he was young, he went to the racetrack to do some quick gains, because sometimes people think that you can do some really quick gains every time. And he bet, but first he lost and he continued. So he bet, he lost, and he continued, and he almost lost everything. So at the end, he felt kind of sick, and he was really tired because he felt that he was fooled by his anxiety to continue and to over push. And that made him learn a lot, that when you are gambling, but that's the same for investing, if you let your heart and your anxiety, for example, take control of your investing or gambling, this is never good. Okay, so you need to really think with your mind when you are investing. So this is something very important for him. And actually, when you are in a losing situation, just know when to quit, because if you don't know when to quit and you try to over push it, well, you might be at the end with $0 left and you might lose all. So know when to quit and also learn from your mistakes is really crucial for an intelligent investor. Did you know that 80% of NFL football players fill up for bankruptcy only 2 years after their retirement? This is pretty insane. But like for Mr. Buffett, wealth and money doesn't necessarily define success. But when we take a look at football players, we see that they actually earn such a huge amount of money in such a short period of time, and that in most cases, as we see with these statistics, they don't know how to manage their money and how to use it well. And that means that at the end of the day, they have almost nothing left because they don't use their money wisely. And sometimes, for example, Mr. Buffett say that sometimes the flashiest one and the people that seems like they are the richest one might not be the one that are necessarily the richest one. Because when you take a look at some, let's say, flashy football compared to the outlook of Mr. Buffett, you see that there is a difference. And sometimes you see that Mr. Buffett doesn't look like he wants to impress people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not wealthy and that he's not successful. Sometimes be careful about people that try to impress. This is not necessarily showing that they have money and that they are successful. Because, for example, in Mr. Buffett book, actually he knows people that are going to, for example, big dinners and fancy restaurants with their fancy cars and with their sportive cars, but at the end of the day, nobody loves them. And this is something important for Mr. Buffett, because at the age that he is, as you say, the thing that is success for him and that represent the success is the amount of people that loves him and that loves him for real. So the love is pretty important for him, and that's why, for example, with the astronomical amount of money that he has, and he has many billion, almost 100 billion, so he's not gonna take his money and just go spend it in cars or go spend it in houses. He takes a lot of his money, and since 2006 he put it and he gives it to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So he gives it to others people that will need it, and that is something that will make him feel way more successful than using it and go spend it on other things. So this is really important for him to know what the success truly means, because sometimes you might think that somebody is successful because he has big house, big cars, or anything like that, but sometimes somebody that could be that could seem less low profile could be the most successful person compared to another flashy person, for example. So personally, the advices that I present to you in that video, I really like them because I think that it shows that Mr. Buffett, first of all, obviously, is someone that has worked hard to really progress and to earn the reputation, as I told you earlier, that he presently has, and also all the wealth that he accumulates is something that he works for. And I think that's something that is really human about him, and something that I really admire, because I think that he's a great model for investors of all kind. And it's the fact that he's also human, so he doesn't only base his mentality on money. So he wants to do money, obviously, and everyone should see money, because money actually doesn't necessarily make happy, but it really helps, I think, in my point of view, because it helps obviously to pay all the bills, to pay the vacation, to pay for your school, for the children's school, and etc. But the thing about him is that he's pretty human, so he's not using his money to flex on others and to use it to buy things that will not be useful for him, but he will use it and spend it in some foundations and stuff to help others. So this is something that I really admire from him, and I think that with those 5 advices, obviously this is only 5 advices, but there is a ton of him, a ton of it, and I really invite you to go check out on the internet and his book if you want to check it out too, about him, about all the advices that he's giving, because I think that is really some wise advices and wise statements that he gives to the people. So I think that it's quite interesting to read and watch the videos also. And guys, for everyone that is new, I invite you to join the North family if you like that video, obviously, so you can subscribe to the channel. It's totally free. And if you like those kind of videos, of short videos about investing and about obviously those advices and short videos about that, tell me in the comment section. And if you haven't saw it yet, I will invite you to go check out my new video that I recently posted that is pretty interesting. So I'll see you there. It's gonna be just over here.